A man is standing barefoot on a mountain, and he is about to hear a name that will not be spoken out loud again for 1,000 years. His name is Moses. He is 80 years old. He is not a prince anymore, not a prophet yet, just a fugitive shepherd on the far side of the wilderness, tending someone else's sheep in the kind of silence that swallows a man whole. And then he sees it, a bush wrapped in fire, burning, but not burning up. The flames climb and curl and never once turn a single leaf to ash. So he does what you would do. He steps closer, and a voice comes out of the fire and tells him to take off his sandals, because the dirt under his feet is holy now. Then the voice gives him an impossible job: go back to Egypt, the place you fled, and set my people free. And Moses, trembling, asks the only question that matters. When they ask me, who sent me, what do I say? What is your name? The voice answers, Ihye Asher Ihye. I am who I am. Tell them I am has sent you. And in the very next breath, he ties that I am to his name, the name we write, with 4 Hebrew letters, the name most Bibles print, as the Lord in small capitals. The I am and the name are wrapped around each other from the start. Now, you have to understand what happened to that name. Over the centuries, it came to be treated as so holy, so heavy, that the people of Israel grew afraid to say it out loud at all. When they read it in the scriptures, they'd substitute another word, Lord, rather than pronounce the real one. By the time of Jesus, speaking it had become almost unthinkable. The clearest picture we have is the Day of Atonement, when the high priest would go alone into the deepest room of the temple, behind the curtain, on the one day the nation held its breath. And there, in that sealed room, the name could be spoken, where almost no one else ever dared. So hold on to that. A name people had grown too afraid to say, a name that had fallen into silence. Because one afternoon, in a crowded temple courtyard, a carpenter from a town nobody respected is going to open his mouth and say it. Out loud, about himself. And the moment the words leave his lips, the people standing around him are going to bend down, pick up stones, and try to kill him on the spot. We'll get to that afternoon, but not yet. Here's what you need to know first. This is not a video about 7 clever metaphors. This is not a video about a teaching style. This is not a video about a rabbi with a gift for words. This is a video about a man who kept saying 2 of the most dangerous words a human being can say, I am, until the day he said them, with nothing attached, and everyone who heard it understood exactly what he meant. 7 times, in John's Gospel, Jesus says, I am, and finishes the sentence. I am the bread. I am the light. I am the door. I am the shepherd. I am the resurrection. I am the way. I am the vine. 7 great declarations, each with something after it. And then there is a moment when he drops the rest of the sentence entirely. When he says, I am, and stops, nothing after it. That moment is the reason he went to the cross. Let's start at the beginning. The first time he says it, he has just fed a crowd of 5,000 people with a boy's lunch. Picture the hillside, grass sloping down toward the water, thousands of people sitting in groups, and not one of them has anything to eat, and evening is coming. A boy hands over 5 small barley loaves and 2 fish, the kind of lunch a mother packs, the kind of nothing you'd be embarrassed to offer a crowd this size. And Jesus takes it, and he breaks it, and he keeps breaking it, and the pieces keep coming, until every single person on that hillside is full, and there are 12 baskets left over. Now think about what that does to a crowd. You came out here hungry, and a man broke a child's lunch into a feast for a city. Of course you come back the next day. Of course you get in a boat and chase him across the lake. Free bread, endless bread, bread that never runs out. Who on earth wouldn't follow that? And Jesus looks at this crowd, these people who have rowed across a lake for a second breakfast, and he says something that empties the hillside. Ego eimi, I am the bread of life. The one who comes to me will never be hungry again. I want you to notice the Greek there, because it matters more than you'd think. Ego eimi. It means I am. Now, in Greek, you don't strictly need the word I at all. The verb already carries it. So when the I is added on top, it can add a little weight, a little emphasis, depending on how it's used. On its own, that's just grammar. Plenty of people say ego eimi in the Gospels, without claiming anything at all. So don't hear me say two Greek words automatically equal the name of God. They don't. But hold on to this phrase anyway. Because it just so happens to be the same phrase the ancient Greek translation of the Old Testament puts in the mouth of the voice in the burning bush. And as we'll see, John builds his whole gospel so that by the end, you cannot miss where these words are pointing. Watch how many times Jesus reaches for them. The crowd, though, they don't want bread that feeds a soul. They want bread that fills a stomach. And by the end of the chapter, most of them have turned around and walked home. He offered them the cure for the deepest hunger a human being carries, and they left because it wasn't lunch. That's the first thing you learn about these statements. Every single one of them reaches for a need, so deep that most people don't even know they have it. The second time, he is standing in the temple, in the middle of the Feast of Tabernacles. You have to picture this one too. During that feast, the priests lit enormous golden lampstands in the temple courtyard, lamps so tall they needed ladders to fill them, burning so bright that the light spilled up over the walls and lit the whole city underneath. Jerusalem glowed at night. The Mishnah, the old record of Jewish practice, says there wasn't a courtyard in the city that didn't catch some of that light. People stood in the streets and watched the sky over the temple burn gold, and standing in the middle of all that borrowed light, with those towering lamps flickering over his shoulder, Jesus says, "I am the light of the world. Whoever follows me will never walk in darkness. He will have the light of life, not one of these lamps that a servant has to climb a ladder to fill, and that will gutter out by morning. Not the sun that rises tomorrow and is gone by evening. The light, the real one, the one every lamp in that courtyard was only ever imitating." Here's what most people miss. He never waited for a quiet, private moment to make these claims. He made them standing right next to the very thing he was claiming to be. Bread, on the day after he broke bread for thousands. Light, in a courtyard drowning in lamplight. Over and over, he held up the copy in his hand and told you, calmly, that he was the original. And then it gets heavier, because the third time, he stops talking about the things you need and starts talking about his own death. "I am the door," he says. "Whoever enters through me will be saved and will go in and out and find pasture." You have to know how a sheep pen worked back then to feel the weight of that. Out in the hills, a shepherd would build a low stone wall in a circle with one gap for the sheep to pass through. And at night, there was no gate to swing shut, so the shepherd himself laid down across the opening. His own body was the door. Anything that wanted to reach the sheep, a wolf, a thief, a lion, had to come across him first. It had to step over the shepherd's body to get to the flock. And then, in the very same breath, he says it plainly, "I am the good shepherd." And the good shepherd lays down his life for the sheep. Do you feel the ground shifting under these words? The first statement was about your hunger. The second was about your darkness. But this one is about his blood. He is standing in front of a crowd, months before any of it happens, telling them that being the shepherd means dying. The hired hand runs. When the wolf comes, he says, because the sheep aren't his, and he doesn't care. But the shepherd stays. The shepherd bleeds. The shepherd goes down into the dark, so the sheep never have to. 7 statements. And we are only 3 in. Watch how fast the stakes are climbing, from a hungry stomach, to a dark road, to a body lying across the door in the blood of the man who owns it. Before we go further, stop and notice the pattern, because it's about to change. Every "I am" so far has been Jesus telling you what he is for you. Bread for your hunger, light for your darkness, a door for your safety, a shepherd who bleeds in your place. Each one takes something you lack and says, "I am that. I am the answer to the thing that's missing in you." Hold on to your favorite one, so far, the bread, the light, the shepherd, because I'm going to ask you about it at the end, and I want you to remember which one reached in and grabbed you. And if this is stirring something in you, follow along, because the last 3 go somewhere the first 4 only hinted at. And then there's the moment he drops the sentence altogether, the one with nothing after it, the one that made men reach for stones. So far, he's been telling you what he is for you. But strip away everything after the words, I am, and you're left with something far more dangerous. Let me show you where this is going. The fourth time he says it to a woman standing outside her brother's grave. Her name is Martha. For days ago, she watched her brother Lazarus die. She sat with the body. She wrapped it. She stood there while they rolled the stone across the mouth of the tomb and sealed her brother into the dark. And she had sent for Jesus. She had sent word days ago, the one you love is sick. Come quickly, and he did not come. Not on the first day, not on the second. Her brother died waiting, and Jesus stayed where he was. So when she finally hears he's on the road, she doesn't wait at the house. She walks out to meet him, and the first thing out of her mouth is the sentence she's been rehearsing for 4 days. Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. Sit in that for a second. Not theology. Not a lesson. Not composure. That's grief with his name in it. If you had been here. If you had come when I called. You could have stopped this, and you didn't. Have you ever prayed a sentence like that? Where were you? I asked, and you were silent, and the worst thing happened anyway. And Jesus doesn't argue with her. He doesn't explain the delay. He lets the silence sit between them for a moment. And then he looks at this grieving woman standing between him and a sealed tomb, and he says, I am the resurrection and the life. Whoever believes in me, though he die, yet shall he live. Notice what he does not say. He does not say, I know a God who raises the dead. He does not say, I can pray and resurrection might come. He says, I am the resurrection. The thing you are waiting for at the end of the world, the thing you're hoping is true when they lower someone you love into the ground. He says that thing is not a what. It's a who, and he is standing in front of her. And then he walks to the tomb, and he tells them to roll the stone away. And Martha panics because her brother has been dead 4 days, and the smell, and he says it anyway. Lazarus, come out. And a dead man walks into the sunlight still wrapped in his grave clothes. That's the fourth statement. Death itself, answered by a name. The fifth time, everything has gone quiet. It's the last night. Jesus is in an upstairs room with the men who followed him for 3 years, and he knows that within hours he'll be arrested, and by tomorrow he'll be dead. And he's trying to prepare them for it. I'm going away, he tells them. You can't follow where I'm going yet. And you know the way to the place I'm going. And one of them can't take it. Thomas, the one who always says the thing everyone else is thinking. He blurts it out. Lord, we don't know where you're going. How can we possibly know the way? It's an honest question. It might be the most honest thing anyone says in that whole room. We don't understand. We're lost. How are we supposed to find the road when we can't even see where it leads? And Jesus answers with the sixth, I am. I am the way and the truth and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. Here's what most people miss about that answer. Thomas asked for a map. He wanted directions. Turn here, go this far, look for this landmark. And Jesus doesn't give him a map. He gives him himself. The way isn't a set of instructions he hands you. The way is a person you follow. You don't get to the Father by knowing the right route. You get there by holding onto the right man. And then they stand up, and they leave the room, and they start walking through the dark toward a garden where soldiers are already gathering. And somewhere on that walk, maybe passing a vineyard in the moonlight, maybe reaching out to touch the vines climbing over a wall, he says the seventh one. I am the vine. You are the branches. Stay connected to me, and you'll bear fruit you could never grow on your own. Cut yourself off from me, and you'll wither. And he means that literally. Take a knife to a branch, cut it clean off the vine, and lay it on the ground. For an hour it still looks alive, green, full of leaves. You'd swear nothing had changed, but it's already dying. The life it was living was never its own. It was flowing up, quietly, from the root, through the vine, into the branch, and the branch never once produced a drop of it. By morning the leaves are curling. In a day they're brittle. A branch was never built to live on its own strength. Neither, he is telling them, are you. But it gets stranger. Because if you've been listening closely, you've noticed something. He keeps saying it. Ego I me. Ego I me. Ego I me. Bread, light, door, shepherd, resurrection, way, vine. 7 times he's picked up the copy and told you he was the original. And those same two Greek words, the ones John keeps placing on his lips, are the very words the burning bush used on the mountain. John is building something. He wants you to hear the echo. 7 declarations, each with a word after it. Now watch what happens the one time he drops the rest of the sentence and lets those 2 words stand completely alone. He is in the temple courtyard, and he is picking a fight he knows will end at the cross. The religious leaders have him surrounded, and they are angry. He's been making claims all day that sound, to their ears, like blasphemy. And now they're throwing their trump card at him, Abraham. Their father Abraham, the greatest man who ever lived, dead and buried for 2,000 years. Who do you think you are? They sneer. Abraham died. The prophets died. Are you greater than our father Abraham? He could soften it. He could explain, qualify, back away from the ledge. He does the opposite. He steps off it on purpose. He says something that breaks the grammar of the sentence in half. Before Abraham was, I am. Stop. Read that again. He doesn't say before Abraham was, I was. That would already be an enormous claim, to say you existed 2,000 years before your own birth. But that's not what he says. He shifts the tense mid-sentence. Before Abraham was, past tense, Abraham, finished, buried, I am. Present tense. Right now? Still. Always. He reached back, past every scribe, who substituted Lord, past every generation that had grown afraid of the name, all the way back to a bush burning on a mountain, and he picked up the words that voice gave to Moses. I am. And he put them on himself. And you can tell, from what happens next, that the crowd hears the weight of it. Remember the beginning of this video? Remember the name people had grown too afraid to speak? These are people who had spent their whole lives never hearing that name cross a human pair of lips. And now a carpenter from Nazareth has said it. About himself. In the temple. In broad daylight. Watch what they do. The next line in John is short, and it is one of the most violent moments in the gospel. Then they took up stones. They bent down, right there on the temple floor, and picked up rocks to throw at him. You don't do that over a metaphor. You don't reach for a stone because someone called himself bread. John wants you to see how they took it, not as a riddle, not as a nice teaching, but as a claim, so staggering there were only 2 honest responses to it. Either this was the worst blasphemy a human being could commit, or it was true. There was no comfortable third option, and there still isn't. That's the moment the sentence has nothing after it. No bread, no light, no door, no shepherd, just the words. Standing alone, the way they stood alone on the mountain. And it happens one more time, on the worst night of his life, and this time you can see what the name does. It's the garden, Gethsemane. It's dark, and Judas has let a mob out to arrest him, soldiers with torches, temple guards with clubs and swords, a small army sent to take one unarmed man. And Jesus steps forward out of the shadows and asks them who they're looking for. Jesus of Nazareth, they say. And he answers them with 2 words. Ego eimi. I am. And the whole armed mob, the soldiers, the guards, the swords, the torches, the whole crowd staggers backward and falls to the ground. Just 2 words. The same 2 words. And grown men, with weapons go down like the floor dropped out from under them. That's what the name does when it's spoken by the one it belongs to. Now let me tell you why this matters for you. Tonight, wherever you're sitting. Think about the difference between a title and a name. A stranger can read your name off a list. A telemarketer can say it, a form can print it, a machine can spit it back at you. That's your name, as a label, just a sound that points at you from the outside. But then there's the way your name sounds when it's spoken by someone who actually knows you. Your mother in the dark when you were sick. The person who loves you across a table when they need you to really hear them. Same name, completely different thing. One is information, the other is intimacy. That's the difference between the 7 statements and the one that stands alone. The 7 I am statements are Jesus telling you what he is for you. Your bread when you're starving. Your light when you can't see the road. Your shepherd when the wolves are close. Your resurrection when you're standing at a grave. Those 7 are him leaning toward you and saying, here is what I will be for you in the thing that's breaking you. But the one that stands alone isn't about what he is for you. It's about who he is in himself, before Abraham, before the mountain, before the world had a single morning. The 7 are gifts held out in his hands. The last one is the face behind the gifts. And it's the same face that filled a bush with fire and told a barefoot shepherd, "Tell them I am has sent you." So here's where all of it lands. 7 times he picked something you're desperate for and said, "I am that." And every one of those 7 is a door. Bread is a door. Light is a door. The shepherd, the vine, the road out of the grave, every one of them is a way in. But they don't open into 7 different rooms. They all open into the same one. Walk through any of them, your hunger, your darkness, your grief, whatever drove you to him, and you end up standing in the exact same place. In front of the bush, in front of the fire, in front of the voice that told Moses the ground was holy. Because he didn't come to hand you bread and light and a road like a man passing out gifts at a door and then going home. He came to tell you that the one who filled the bush with fire, the one whose name was too holy to say out loud for 1,000 years, the one the whole temple was built to point at, that one knows your name. Not off a list. He knows it the way your mother knew it in the dark. And he is standing in front of you, right now, saying the 2 words they picked up stones to silence. I am. So let me ask you the question I told you I'd ask. Out of all of them, the bread, the light, the shepherd, the resurrection, the way, which I am, do you need most tonight, in the thing that's breaking you right now? Don't overthink it. Whichever one grabbed you first is probably the one. Tell me below. I read them. Because 2,000 years ago, they heard those 2 words and reached for stones. The question is what you'll reach for.